Months from now, when another marathon is in the books, there will be few signs around Boston of the trauma suffered at last year's finish line. But a work of art on display at Boston City Hall aims to capture the events and emotions from that day. WGBH News arts editor Jared Bowen joins me now with more. So you recently met a couple of artists who were actually inspired by the bombings.
Yeah, I recently talked to this artist, Giovanni De Cunto, who's in, he's an artist in the North End. He's a painter. He's actually has this fabulous story that we'll tell tomorrow night on Open Studio about how he really grew up in this abject poverty, but from the moment he could see, essentially, knew he wanted to be a painter, and he's since gone on to be collected in museums and galleries all around the world. He has this fascinating way of painting where none of this is done with a brush. He works directly from the tube onto the canvas, and he often addresses social injustice and the people like John Lennon who fight social injustices around the world. He's collected in the Bush White House, so he's highly sought after. But after the marathon bombings, as soon as he learned of them when he was in his North End studio, he immediately set to the canvas, as many artists often do. It's their one way to be able to process works. And he created a piece called Cosmic Prayer, which is this large mural that you see here. And it works in a lot of the images and a lot of the language that surfaced in those first few hours and those first few days after the marathon bombings. And what's sort of interesting about this piece is that he's now working with this paint that essentially glows in the dark, so that when you see it in the dark, it has this three-dimensional layer and images that you might not necessarily be able to see there surface and come out at you.
Well, where can people actually see this, or can they?
Very shortly, it's going to be shown at City Hall, where they have reached out to him, and it's really a huge honor that this piece will be hung in City Hall in the entryway. We were there for a test hanging not too long ago where we were able to see it, but it's in the main entryway. It's soaring and towering above the main entryway in City Hall. But I talked to him also about how he came to paint this marathon piece and how he was moved to do it.
It was a great moment in human history because the whole city came together like no other city in America. They actually they fell into ranks and actually got the job done, and everybody was at peace. You know, within days. I mean, not peace, but, you know, there was a resolve. And I don't think that happens that much in contemporary society.
Well, is this something that would become part of the memorial in a sense, or will it be a piece to go to a museum, or will it be for sale?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I don't know what the plans are at this moment. I mean, it's a piece that is obviously filled with emotion, and then he had a conversation with City Hall. They wanted it to be there. But of course, I think it will go down in permanent memory, as a lot of artists, as I mentioned, have done. There's a lot of work that was produced after wars and after crises. The ICA not too long ago. Right, exactly. The ICA not too long ago did their big 80s show responding to where you saw how artists responded to the AIDS crisis, and they become a very definitive layer of those moments.
Are there other local artists who have done this, do you know?
Not that I know of. I remember doing a piece not too long ago, or at the 10th anniversary of September 11th, and I talked to playwrights and I talked to artists and choreographers, and they all told me that unlike Giovanni De Cunto, who works very, very quickly, processes very quickly, and actually works on the canvas very quickly, it does take artists time, sometimes even years, to really understand what's happened, and so it'll be years down the road where we see how it's manifested in art.
I went to the Coppola Society opening last year. It was right after the bombings, and a woman had actually painted, you know, the image of the bomb going off, and I have to say, it was one piece that did not sell. I mean, it was so real, and it was so in your face, I think people just thought it was too fresh.
Well, yeah, maybe it's a piece destined for museums then. I mean, it certainly works for the artists, but yeah, I agree. It would be difficult to have in my own home, too.
All right, Jared Bowen, thanks for that.